Alright, welcome everyone to a new edition of Bird's Eye View News. Let me get the window capture started and we'll be going over some stories on Afghanistan I didn't cover last time. And if anyone's watching, yesterday I've been on Laughing at the Guardian stream with Hari and You can check that out on his channel. I'll link it in the description. But enough of the past, let's get on to this week's news. Story from August 26th. Taliban leader says that music will be banned in Afghanistan. Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid gestures as he speaks during a press conference in Kabul, Afghanistan on Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. And we can see him here. Taliban will let women return to their jobs in the future, Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid tells New York Times. Okay. This is one of those performative things where we're just play nice with the West while it's here. Let's see, but if I remember the story correctly, it's exactly that. A Taliban leader has said that music will be banned in Afghanistan, so clearly fundamentalist, and women will be required to travel with a male chaperone on trips that last several days, even as he promises the Taliban will be more liberal than they were 20 years ago. Well, if that's the degree in which they are more liberal, I would say that it's... Just imagine what it would be before. It's not much of an improvement, really. In a recent interview with the New York Times, Taliban spokesperson ZM said while women will eventually be allowed to return to work and go on trips to school, eventually that remains to be seen. And hospitals, they would need a male chaperone for trips that last several days, because as soon as you get under the Taliban, there is a lot less trust to go around. And music will be banned in the country because, of course, Muhammad didn't like various forms of entertainment and luxuries. Like, what's their position on alcohol? I wonder. What's their position on pig's meat? Are these afraid of bacon too? Music is forbidden in Islam, but we're hoping we can persuade people not to do such things instead of pressure them. I wonder if I can play a meme here. If there's anyone in the chat right now, there's at most one lurker. And thank you for viewing. But I wonder if there is... we'll leave without the meme this time, but I was thinking of Islamic music meme. Well, someone laughing at the attitudes in the area, but anyway. However, he said, things will be different under Taliban rule than the previous regime. We want to build the future and forget what happened in the past. Get over is much more appropriate, because if you forget, then in the area in which you get such a strong interpretation of Islam, you would get back to that past if you forget it. He said, rejecting reports that the Taliban is already extracting vengeance on those who oppose them and are trying to reimpose the harsh restrictions on women that made them notorious when they first took control in 1996. Well, I would say that this article is already strongly pointing to them going in that direction. He suggested to the New York Times that the Taliban will let women return to their jobs in the future. In the future, yeah. As long as they wear a head covering, and said concerns that the Taliban would once again force women to stay inside or cover their faces are baseless. I don't know about that baseless, though, because it's already setting up a precedent in this article alone. During their previous time in power, Afghan women could only leave the house in a burqa, a shapeless covering which covers the head and the entire body, with only fabric mesh to see out of. Yep, we know of that. It's the strong interpretation covering. And imagine there were protests for the right to not wear the hijab, which is much less than this. But yeah, not a good situation to be in. He also said that those with proper travel documents will be able to leave the country, and that his regime will not hunt down former interpreters or others who have worked with the American military over the years. I don't know the reliability of these claims because with the US putting up a list of who helped them, I don't think this is so wildly shared view. It's so incredibly unlikely that. Yeah, I don't think it will happen at all. They shouldn't interfere in our country and take out our human resources, doctors, professors, and other people we need here. In America, they might become dishwashers or cooks. It's inhuman, Mujahid added. But he said he's hopeful that the Taliban could build good relationships with the international community, saying they have already cooperated with international leaders on issues like counterterrorism, opium eradication, and the reduction of refugees to the West. It's hard to believe that like what counterterrorism, suppressing rival sects, completely laughable. Mujahid remarks come one day after he announced at a press conference that women should remain inside until we have a new procedure. Yeah, of course, because bureaucracy and Islam result in don't do anything. Just stay inside until we tell you to go with conditions outside. We are worried our forces, who are new and have not yet been trained very well, may mistreat women. Dude. How low can you get to not trust your own people of using decency? We don't want our forces, God forbid, to harm or harass women. Why would you expect them to? I mean, we know what they would expect them to, because they actually would do that. But the fact that now you are worrying about this problem instead of dealing with it a lot earlier, it's just total failure of anything that you claim to support. In the meantime, he said women's salaries will be paid in their homes, echoing what Ahmadullah Wasech, the deputy of the Taliban's Cultural Affairs Committee, told the Times, that the Taliban has no problems with working women as long as they wear hijabs. But under the old Taliban rule, women were not allowed to attend school and faced public flogging if they were found to have violated morality rules, like one requiring that they be fully covered. Okay, so let's see if these promises are as empty as they seem now, or if they actually have some backing on them in the future. Now let's move to the so peaceful transition. Because it's not peaceful at all. From the 23rd, so this Monday, deadly firefight erupts at Kabul airport as evacuation chaos continues into the second week. Key points: the US military said Monday that no US or NATO coalition forces were injured after a brief firefight broke out at 1:08 into Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport. The last week at Kabul airport saw images of panic and desperation as mothers handed their babies off to foreign soldiers over barbed wire walls, and Afghan civilians clung to airplanes as they took off in desperate attempts to flee their country. Yeah, we've covered this last week with the clinging onto planes. We didn't say, I didn't say anything about women handing their babies to fleeing, well, to retreating US soldiers. But yeah, this is something which is not unexpected to happen. The administration is considering extending the deadline for complete troop withdrawal beyond its original August 31st date, something the Taliban says it will not accept. Of course they will not accept it. They are struggling to make it even to its current point. I believe, yeah, it's there are 2 more days until that deadline. I didn't hear it being completely cancelled, but yeah, this response, the response from this administration was dreadful. Okay, let's see. The US said Monday that no American or NATO coalition forces were injured after a brief firefight broke out at one gate of Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport, where troops are assisting with emergency evacuations of Western citizens and at-risk Afghan nationals. Yeah, but there are casualties outside of this, a ton of them. The violence comes as the Biden administration grapples with a torrent of criticism over fallout of its pullout from Afghanistan, fully deserved. And the circles I'm in, there is no one I've heard in any way praise or defend Biden's response. Everyone across the board says it was terrible. Some have reconsidered their stance on intervention completely. Some just say that the retreats would have been done differently. Of course, there is propaganda that the US shouldn't have intervened at all, or should have retreated after taking out Bin Laden. But yeah, the area is a concern for national security, and let's see what the article has to say more. Urban and Mandi described the firefight incident in Kabul. Afghans... and I really hoped I wouldn't get notifications like this. Okay, ignore... Jesus Christ, no! Sorry about that. Shut up. I thought I muted the... that was my video editor. Yeah, sorry for anyone listening with headphones. Yeah, Biden wants to extend the deadline, or at least wanted at the beginning of the week. That wouldn't be possible. And I'll be moving on to the third story of tonight. So some actions are being taken about the situation. U.S. airstrike. Joe Biden retaliates against ISIS-K following Kabul terror attack on... This was from yesterday. The US has bombed a member of the Islamic State group in Afghanistan less than 36 hours after ISIS-K claimed responsibility for suicide bombing at Kabul airport. This seems to be a short story. Alright. America struck back against ISIS-K in Afghanistan in retaliation to Thursday's attack on Kabul airport. Captain Bill Urban, spokesman for U.S. Central Command, said U.S. military forces conducted an over-the-horizon counter-terrorism operation today against ISIS-K planner. The unmanned airstrike occurred in the Nangarhar province of Afghanistan. Initial indications are that we killed the target. We know of no civilian casualties. Well, that's good, but the region wouldn't be destabilized further if you stayed until the job was done, until the region was stable. So yeah, at least they are taking some level of action if they are under threat. Well, if there is terrorism in the region, but too little too late, I would say. The US drone hit a vehicle carrying an ISIS-K member believed to be carrying out future attacks, as a US official told Fox News. However, it is not known whether the ISIS-K member was involved in the attack on Kabul airport. The official also confirmed the drone strike took place near Afghanistan's border with Pakistan a few hours ago. ISIS-K's suicide bomber attack on Kabul resulted in the death of 160 Afghans, 13 US military personnel, and 2 Britons. Following the attack, UK President sorry, US President Joe Biden vowed to punish the perpetrators. Well, good thing that he did, at least on this occasion. I don't need to emphasize over and over again the fact that the presence was still needed, and he... Hello, Rexman. Yeah, I'm reading a little bit of news on foreign affairs. On this new episode of Bird's Eye View, we are stuck on the news in Afghanistan. It's both current events and fairly easy to cover at this point. Plus, I'm a little bit pressured by time, so I can't do many segments like the first Bird's Eye View. So we'll do it live, and let's see, next story from Reuters. Yes. Accept everything, reject everything. Perfect. Afghan karate champions fears it's game over for female athletes. Yeah, so first stories, some Taliban officials said that no, there wouldn't be any problems, but yeah, the women themselves don't believe that at all. Cisarua, Indonesia, August 20th, Reuters. Afghan karate champion Mina Asadi pounds the heavy bag as part of her training routine, but she fears female athletes still in her homeland may have already lost their fight to compete now that the Taliban are back in power. Mina left Afghanistan when she was 12 and went to Pakistan, where she started karate training and later represented Afghanistan in the 2010 South Asian Games. Mina left Afghanistan when she was 12. She returned to Kabul the next year and opened a fight club, but was forced to flee a second time due to the violence and ended up in Indonesia, where with her husband and then 1-year-old daughter. Okay, in chat, so you think the US should have stayed? Well, the region was unstable, wasn't it? Even Biden said that they expect it to last less than half a year. So that wasn't a point in which they should have left. Yeah, when the officials themselves from the US said that the fall is imminent, yeah, the job wasn't done. I feel miserable. I lost my hope, and the people of my country lost their hope too, Mina told Reuters in a studio in Cisarua, a town south of Jakarta, where she teaches karate to refugees who, like her, hope to resettle in a third country. When the Taliban ruled Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001, their strict interpretation of Islamic law, sometimes brutally enforced, dictated that women could not work and girls could not go to school. Let's hope that it's not returning to that. Let's hope that it's first level, the version of interpretation of the text which will be applied now that the Taliban retook control is more a milder one. Second, let's hope that they don't stay in power for too long. And yeah, I don't know if the US will go back. Probably not. or that the region will change itself. Like maybe there will be another Arab Spring. Let's hope for that. But at this point, the situation isn't looking good. Women had to cover their faces and be accompanied by a male relative to venue out of their homes. Yeah, and the story from earlier said that much of that will return now. With the Taliban back in Kabul, Mina is fearful of what that means for the progress made by her compatriots. All the achievement and values are destroyed, and this would be a dark moment for the people, especially for women and girls, said the 28-year-old, who is also a member of the Hazara minority. This week, Taekwondo athlete Zakia Kudadadi had her dreams shattered of becoming Afghanistan's first female competitors at the Paralympic Games due to the turmoil in Kabul. Everything is finished for women's athletes, said Mina, who was the sole female athlete representing Afghanistan at the 2012 South Asian Karate Championship, where she won 2 silver medals. Well, congratulations to her, and I feel for you. As I've said, the interventions should have been continued until this wouldn't have been the only likely outcome. Taliban leaders have tried to reassure Afghans and the international community that girls and women would have the right to an education and to work, but Mina and others are skeptical. Yeah, I'm skeptical too. And I don't think I've heard anyone who isn't skeptical. They are the extremist party, and they don't believe in human rights or rights of women, said Mina. They don't. There have been reports that some women were ordered from their jobs as the Taliban advanced across Afghanistan. They will never change. They're the same Taliban. Yeah, the books say the same, and they listen to the book. The majority of Afghan refugees in Indonesia and Hazara, who have been targeted for decades by Sunni militants, including the Taliban and Islamic State, for their ethnicity and mostly Shiite religious beliefs. Alright. Yeah. Everyone is concerned at this point. Let's see the chat. If nothing happens with China, we might go back. It's an excellent training ground, mountainous terrain, people willing to shoot at you. Can't ask for more than that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. The chats. Intervention with China would be a lot more complicated. So, this story I already covered. Let me go with the next one. 4 out of 5 San Diego area families stuck in Afghanistan are secure in process of returning to theirs. So
tonight the Taliban is banning.
Nope. Let me lower the volume for this. Sorry about that. These players start by themselves. Story from 2 days ago. Wait, what? Okay. That was the hour. For a moment I thought it was the year. 4 out of 5 Southern California families still stranded in Afghanistan are in a safe place and they are in process of being removed from the country, school officials tell CNN. Yeah, the evacuations are continuing to some degree, but too slow, too little. Of the 5 families awaiting evacuations, 4 are in a secure place and preparing to depart, according to Howard Sen, spokesman for the Cajun Valley Union School District. A 5th family is still unable to safely... Yeah. When they said 4 out of 5, I was wondering, does that mean that one is evacuated already, or it means that it isn't safe? And it means that it isn't safe. And continues to seek help from US officials. Each of the involved families has students in the school district located just east of San Diego, The 5 families consist of 14 students and 8 parents, Shen said. The office of U.S. Representative Darrell Issa of California told CNN Friday it is working to help a 6th family escape Afghanistan, but provided no details about the situation. Yeah, everyone wants to run from the area. Everyone fears at this point if it's still there. I've seen the guy who coincidentally went to Afghanistan exactly as it was collapsing, and he made it out of there. And yeah, what's the guy's name? He was on an interview with Count Dankula recently. Yeah. Nobody wants to stay there. Okay, back to the chat again. This was always going to be the likely outcome. They don't want democracy. Well, for a couple of years there was relative peace. So, yeah, I would say that there is enough support for the ideology to have been hard to completely rule out of the region. And there were policies which should have been applied better in order to... Wait, still, while I'm still commenting, let me change the stream image. Yeah, they have a lot of support, but also the establishment of the Western system has plenty of support. So it's either the regime would have been stable for the West, or the Western supporters are being persecuted, which is the case now. Another decade wouldn't have ever changed anything. Well, if you've seen both on this channel and on others, the presence of the intervention was only between 10 and 10,000, between 10,000 and 20,000 troops, and that's a really low presence. So there were it was very difficult to establish anything with the level of dedication which was allocated to this situation. Let's see. The departures come as deadly suicide attacks rocketed the area near Kabul's airport on Thursday. Story from earlier. Killing more than 60 people and wounding at least 140, while the United States and other Western countries raced to complete evacuations of their citizens and Afghan allies following the Taliban takeover of the country. We don't believe any of our students were hurt during the explosions, she told CNN. Well, that's good, at least that didn't happen. He said his staff are aware of the location of several American citizens and are in direct and consistent contact with them, Jonathan Wilcox, a spokesman for the representative, told CNN earlier this week. They are scared, stranded and trapped in the Kabul area, Wilcox said in a statement. So far they've been unable to reach the airport. I know the president and his press secretary have previously said this isn't happening, but that's dead wrong. Yeah, they're covering their tracks, they're trying to make it seem as little of a problem they possibly can, but yeah, they can't suppress this. They can't make people turn their heads. This is a complete failure. We have reason to believe that other California residents are very much in the same situation. This is real. Yeah, sadly so. Related in the chat with they wouldn't stand and fight. I believe that the Afghan security forces casualties in the past 20 years is 160,000. So yeah, they did fought for a very long period of time. I don't want to stand in constant opposition with the chat, but yeah, this is the information I know. It's not that they didn't fight; it's that they did a lot. Only recently, what I covered last week was that the way the US retreated and the information which was communicated to the Afghan forces made this a complete retreat. And speaking of complete retreat, the Taliban unit appears to mock US Iwo Jima flag raising photo. Yeah, the Taliban is winning so completely over there that they even have the time to mock the forces which they defeated. A Taliban propaganda photo shows members of the extremist group's elite commando unit recreating the iconic photo of World War II capturing US Marines raising the American flag after the victory at Iwo Jima. This stage photo is the latest kick in the teeth from the Islamic militants who have completely seized control of Afghanistan amid the withdrawal of US forces following a 20-year war. The special unit seen in the photo, known as the Badri 313 Battalion, has emerged as the Taliban's best fighting force according to Marine Corps Times. But the group is named after the 17th century Battle of Badr. This is Joe Biden's legacy for all the world to see, and this is my opinion as well. A complete blunder, which everyone is laughing at. Well, except the people who care about the human rights of the region and the people about to be persecuted. I am not sure how large the negative consequences for both Biden's presidency domestically will be, like change of support for the Democratic Party, and the US standing in the world seeing this level of failure. And hopefully it will be minimal, but it's unlikely. Yeah, they dressed fully as US soldiers and took the satirical photo. I'm not sure if the chat's laughing about the joke by the Taliban or my reactions, but I hope it's that. Yeah, the Taliban's trolling the US forces. Well, what can we say? They are fully deserving of mockery. Okay. After Taliban triumph, Biden faces even greater test in preventing extremist resurgence in Afghanistan. Yeah, the region is stabilizing in the favor of the Taliban, and that's bad news for the West because it will be a hub for radicalization in the future. This is a little bit of an older story from 2 weeks ago, but I didn't cover it before. Even before the Taliban's stunning takeover this week, last week, American military and intelligence officials were racing to devise plans for containing extremist threats emanating from Afghanistan, a task they knew would be more difficult following completion of President Biden's order to withdraw US forces. Now, as the militant commander commandeer Afghanistan security and intelligence institutions, the Biden administration faces a far steeper challenge in fulfilling the president's pledge to prevent Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, and other terrorist groups that have operated there from regaining strength and threatening the United States. Current and former officials say that the process for identifying and responding to terrorist plots has been upended as the Pentagon and the CIA, instead of planning for operations alongside an allied government and friendly spy agency in Kabul, are forced to contemplate an environment abruptly off limits and under the control of a hostile regime. Back to the chat. Let me change the... Okay. Rexman says, I joined the Marines in 2001, went to Iraq in 2005. Alright, since I've been back, more people have died from suicide from my unit than from the enemy. My condolences, Rex. That's terrible. It's a difficult situation. We stay there, more suicide will happen. it's tragic. What can I say? At the level the troops were involved. How can I respond to that? The counterterrorism posture went from from problematic with the US withdrawal to extraordinarily bad with the Taliban in full control. Suddenly one wonders if we will go entirely dark. It's like a bad dream. Foreign intelligence officials said that they are detecting signs that the Taliban's victory has energized global jihadists, which is to be expected. A threat that may only grow as the Taliban releases Al-Qaeda operatives who are imprisoned by the Afghan government. Yeah, the situation is terrible on multiple fronts. And intelligence officials from Arab nations who, like others, spoke on the condition of under the condition of anonymity to describe evolving assessments, said officials had seen an uptick in jihadist communications about developments in Afghanistan. The Taliban takeover, this official said, is encouraging many jihadists to think about traveling to Afghanistan now instead of Syria or Iraq. Yeah, stable for region, base for radicalization. According to a European intelligence official, the Taliban's victory has become a rallying cry for jihadist sympathizers there. The US appears in all of this now as a weak nation. In coming weeks, the Pentagon, CIA, and other agencies will pivot to reshaping terrorism plans drawn up after violence April communication that he would withdraw US forces. Yeah. A mess was made, now everyone has to deal with it. And it would have been much better if there wouldn't have been this situation in the first place. If I remember correctly, there were no victims in the US forces ranks for several months, or at least the victims from the retreat were equivalent to a whole years or more than before the retreat. Yeah. We're built for war, not police action. Okay. Now, while the Biden administration might still attempt to fly drones from the Gulf, they did in the earlier article. They responded to the terrorist attack at the airport. It will do so over hostile airspace. Yeah, it would have been much better if the area was still secure. That will make any manned flights risky, as US pilots will face the prospect of attack and no combat rescue teams on the ground. And to finish with this article, so let's see. A related concern, one former senior defense official said, is the likelihood that US training in electronic espionage and other spycraft will be used by the Taliban, possibly to hunt down local adversaries or those who worked with foreign troops throughout the war. Yeah, I've seen a video by someone saying that the equipment left there is either extremely old or something which they mostly already had, but so what? It will still be used for those purposes. It's still resources which shouldn't be there at all. And the way they'll use the equipment will be to the detriment of any ally in the region. William Wexler. I'll go with Wexler. William Wexler, who served as a Pentagon official for special operations under Obama presidency, said the Biden administration should reach out immediately to members of Afghanistan's elite special forces who fought alongside the United States and could serve as future allies or channels for intelligence. We don't want to lose them, Wexler said. Alright. I've got the third viewer today. Perfect. Ironically, I remain with out of stories, and yeah, we'll go over this. A story which is by Foundation for Economics Education, I think, FEE. No, yeah, Foundation for Economic Education, which is critical of intervention. Let's see how I react to a dissenting voice this time. Words are no way to advance human rights. The United States has no business cleaning up foreign countries when we ourselves are in such a hot mess. Oh yeah, this is something which, based on this introduction by Hannah Cox, I said my potholes on Twitter. Like, you can't have both domestic and foreign interests. I mean, this is for national security, and that's important. After 20 long years, she did a meme. Perfect. $2 trillion and nearly 2,500 American deaths, the US finally pulled out of one of the greatest foreign conflicts, leaving Afghanistan under the orders of President Joe Biden. Well, this isn't exactly an endorsement given what happened. The exit has been messy, to say the very least. American citizens are struggling to escape the country, and the US government abandoned thousands of Afghan, not Afghani. Afghani is the currency. Interpreters, soldiers, and others who assisted America during the decades-long battle. Within 1 week of the withdrawal of the US military, the Taliban regained control of the region and immediately began reinstituting elements of Sharia law. Advertisements portraying women were torn down from city streets, professional women went home to hide their degrees, and many fear that females will be again forced into arranged marriages. Mothers were seen handing their babies to departing US soldiers in a desperate attempt to provide an escape for their children from a bleak future. About half of this is already what I covered both this week and last week as well. In response, some prominent Americans have condemned the decision to leave the region and argue that American troops should stay in what many have dubbed a forever war to protect the human rights of these women. Well, it's not exactly a forever war if it wins in victory for the West, because victory for the Taliban would mean that they are just the destabilizing force from then on. Former governor of South Carolina, also known as Workholic Nikki Haley, said, nice, "You're going to have sex slaves, you're going to have child marriages, you're going to have girls that are no longer allowed in school." Completely true. And it seems that these voices found sympathetic ears on social media. Saigon-like moment abandoning of Kabul. Oopsie. Encouraging women in Afghanistan to embrace freedom, rights, and education and dreams for 20 years, then abandoning them. Yep, this is pretty much what happens. So incredible to see how you are abandoning these girls, women in Afghanistan, to unimaginable suffering, and after they've been given hope. Alright, so let's say what is the name? Cox and Hannah. To see what Hannah's response to this is, it is clear that many have come to view our foreign wars less as a vein of national security and more of a role in humanitarian project. Well, it kind of is both, because the thing which threatens national security also is threatening human rights in the region and eventually abroad. And when presented with images of such suffering, it is easy to see why many feel compelled to intervene. But while the intentions of these would-be do-gooders might come from genuine concern, war, and particularly American wars, have a horrible track record of defending and upholding human rights. Brilliant. For the sake of space, let's just imagine the past 2 decades of interventionism and its ramifications. Yeah, nobody will say that things were done perfectly smoothly, but the region had very few levels of sorting itself out. Let's see what it said here. It's hard to say exactly how many armed conflicts we're currently in because, in defiance of all constitutional norms, none of our many wars since World War II have been congressionally declared. Instead, we've entered into conflicts through resolutions that authorize military force. When President Obama approved the use of military force in Libya, for example, he did so based on the War Powers Resolution, which was passed in 1973. That intervention led to the death of the country's dictator Muammar Gaddafi, but deeply destabilized the region. Yep, the intervention in Libya was not successful. It was the third time in a decade that the US attempted regime change, and it failed just as spectacularly as attempts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Interestingly, this conflict also began under the guise of a human rights campaign with the intent to liberate Libyans from their own government. But as The Atlantic put it, once the leaders were removed, tough questions about who would reconstruct Libya or provide jobs for the rebel militia members were left unanswered, or even unasked. Libya disintegrated as rival militias feuded for power, and ISIS seized the opportunity to establish a franchise operation. Not only did the Libya conflict create a power vacuum that led to the rise of ISIS and all kinds of horrors under the terrorist group's command, it also led to a huge uptick in human slavery in the region. According to Generation Rights Over the World, a human rights think tank, Libya is an important transit area for migrants and refugees hoping to reach Europe by sea. Human trafficking networks have thrived in anarchy, created by warring militias fighting for control of territory since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Yeah, there should be an effort or special. I wouldn't exactly say committees, but there should be procedures into reforming the governing structure, which is much more than was done currently. Because, in the absence of this, you end up with things like Libya. What happened in Libya only scratches the surface, though. Yeah, it's a failure because of not proper planning, not enough efforts done in the region. In calculating the human rights violations through the Middle East in both the Iraq and Afghanistan war, US has far too many strikes in its own column to be painted as savior of the oppressed. Frequent reports of US-backed bombings against civilians have scattered across the headlines for years. A 2015 US military aircraft targeted Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan and killed 22 people. In 2019, 40 people have killed at a wedding in Afghanistan. Days before that, 32 pine nut harvesters were bombed on their farms. There are countless stories like this from the conflicts over the years. According to Reuters, a UN report released on June 30th said 717 civilian deaths were attributed to American and Afghan forces in the first 6 months of the year, compared to 531 blamed on militias. Yet the war is messy. The situation is not ideal. The US is looking to maximize the amount of victims which are enemy combatants, but there will be some which would be civilians, either from intelligence which wasn't accurate or from various operations which don't turn up right. Several human rights violations committed by US forces in Afghanistan and Iraq were revealed by former army soldiers Chelsea Manning, who leaked materials to WikiLeaks, the organizers found by Julian Assange. These including the infamous collateral murder video, which, according to Wikipedia, showed the US military helicopter crew in Baghdad, Iraq, firing on a group of men and killing several of them, then laughing at some of the casualties, all of whom were civilians, including 2 Reuters journalists. And that is disgraceful. This is the first time I hear of this particular video, and yeah, I really hope that in this case it was a hold up. Like, is this rule for a court martial, Rex? Because you're the military guy in the chat. What do you think the appropriate punishment for this should have been? Let's see. Search for lateral murder, Iraq. Soldiers trial. Let's see if they were put on trial. Control A, Control C, and put in here. Paste and search. Surviving collateral murders, infamous WikiLeaks video. Let's see if there's anything about the trial in here. Airstrike, try. Okay, so this story only talks about survivors. Okay, let's see. Control F. Oh, sorry, trial. Let's see. Washington Post reported David Finkel, who at the time was embedded with the Bravo Company 216 Infantry, later covered the incidents of the day in his book The Good Soldiers. At the February 2013 pre-trial hearing, Manning stated that Finkel was quoting in verbatim the audio communications of the aerial weapons team crew. She said that she was aghast at Finkel's portrayal of the incidents. Reading his account, she explained, one would believe the engagement was somehow justified as payback for earlier attack that led to the death of a soldier. Let's see if there is... Okay, Manning pleaded guilty to 10 of the 22 specified charges. Her trial on the remaining charges began on June 3rd. Manning was acquitted of the most serious charge, that of aiding the enemy, for giving secrets to WikiLeaks. Okay, so this is the trial of the whistleblower. Okay, so I don't have any information of the trials of the soldiers. That's not good. There should have been a trial for the soldier. Let's see if the chat... Court martial, couple of years at least. Yeah. So the chat agrees. This should have been punished much harder than what I was able to find so far. With the help of Manning and others, Assange WikiLeaks published thousands of secret documents that showed the extent of the atrocities perpetrated by our governments and others, including the killings of civilians and widespread use of tortures in prison camps. Yeah, torture doesn't work. It's not a good interrogation technique. Well, you can get false confessions, you can get useless information from it. It's an interrogation technique which is mostly verbal, is preferable. Where you do need to use force is in showing to the troops who will only accept you as legitimate when you are a threat to them. But in interrogation, torture, from all that I know, isn't effective, isn't a good technique. As they say, no good deed goes unpunished. As for the service of human rights, yeah, Manning and Assange was persecuted, yeah. I've read in Wikipedia earlier that the whistleblower was punished, which, yeah, this isn't something to be proud of. In regards to torture camps, we've long known about some and have reason to suspect many others. Okay. Guantanamo Bay. Let's see if it's worth noting that these actions violate the Geneva Convention, and the 5th, 8th, and 14th Amendments. Yeah, there should be a lot more of a critical approach to the actions of the US, but the thing the US does mostly, or at least as I said earlier, looking to maximize towards enemy combatants, is done in military pursuit. What the Taliban government would do from now on and such would be to their own civilians in a situation which is hostile because they make it hostile, not because the conflict was already there. Let's see. Yeah, they're talking about Assange in this second, in this continuation. Okay. Militarization of the police has seen US equipment sent to police departments. Okay. Yeah, in his popular book 12 Rules for Right, Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson writes, "If you can't even clean up your own room, who the hell are you to give advice to the world?" And of course, cleaning up foreign countries, it's her name was Hannah? Come on. Yeah, Hannah Cox. Regent Quincy Adams said in a famous speech, "If people inquire what has America done for the benefit of mankind, let us answer be this. America goes not abroad in search for monsters to destroy. She is the well-wisher to the world and independence for..." Okay, so if we were to take the Hannah Cox approach to foreign policy, then we would do nothing. It's like the George Orwell quote, "Passive is objectively pro-fascist," because if you hamper the war effort of one side, you automatically side with that side which wins. So, yeah, I would really be curious to say what Hannah Cox's alternative would be. Like, we can't deal both with improving the techniques used by the US and by stabilizing the region. Weak case. So I did address some dissenting voice, and yeah, it didn't have a strong case to make at all. Let's see, back to the chat. "This is the problem though. You're fighting terrorists. Anything you could do to be effective or is illegal or at the very least dark gray." Yeah, there is that. It's a much higher degree of force used than in normal situations. Oh, because of the terrorist element. Okay, so these were the stories I had for today. If the chat has any final questions to ask them now, because yeah, the stream for today will end. The situation isn't getting any better. There was that one story of the Biden administration having some retaliation to what's going on in the region when they are attacked, but yeah, they wouldn't be in this situation if they had a proper presence from the start. And what else could I say? All that remains is hopefully my next bird's eye view will be on another story. Biden. All right. So a little bit of a limerick there. I'll probably mention occasionally something going on in the progress of this situation, but Since no one else has anything else to say, I'll be having a reading stream tomorrow from 8:15 British time. And until next time, let us all toast for mass creation and have a good one. Thank you all for watching.